Hey everybody, I'm Todd and this is sweetTguitars. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel and welcome to my life. Alright you guys, we left off in the last 7 of 9 video. We were working on the neck. I got my frets installed and polished. We got our side dots in. Everything's sorted. We got our inserts put in the back of the neck. We need to get our nut cut in. We want to knock out that piece of wood between those two slots right there. Let's measure our nut width. Just a hair shy of 43. We'll say 42.8, which I like a 43 millimeter nut width. This should break off pretty cleanly in between here. Then we'll take a file down in that slot and get that sorted. I got myself a new file. This is a Nicholson. It's just a little riffler file. I got this specifically for cutting the nut slot though and getting that bottom nice and flat and clean. And I'm just going to barely tap this. That's pretty simple, you know. I didn't want to go much deeper than that. Let's test fit our nut. I'm hoping we're a little tight, a little too tight, and we are. That's a good thing. I don't want to file anything off the leading edge. That's our scale length side, and we don't want to mess with that. I'm going to wipe one more coat of Osmo on this neck. This will be the last coat of Osmo that this neck gets. I ended up sanding on the nut just a little and the bottom of the nut slot, but we're set to go. Alright you guys, I went ahead and wiped the coat on the body as well. We're good. Let's buff this body down lightly. Alright you guys, I'm going to let that body cure up overnight. When we come down here tomorrow, we're going to tape up this fretboard. We're going to check all these frets again with the fret rocker. And you know, this neck's been sitting for a few days now, so things have a tendency to move a little. We had one high spot here and one high spot right here in the center of this fret and on the base side of this fret. That's all we had, which is pretty good considering this neck's been fretted now for about a week. I don't really suspect it's going to move on us anymore. I've checked it with the straight edge and we're in good shape. Anyway, let's get this fretboard taped back up and let's continue to move on this guitar. We're almost there, you guys. Think we're going to fire up the old bench buffer for this. I haven't used it yet, and I've had it for about a month and a half or so. This is a 3/4 horsepower low speed buffer. I am using Manzurna 495P. This is number 4 finish compound. I bought this not for frets, but for finishing clear coat or whatever to get that ultra gloss shine. Let's see what this thing will do. It's really super quiet, as you guys can hear, super quiet. I'm going to put my glasses on so I don't fling cotton in my eyes. Yeah, that is working really, really great. So that friction heats it up and helps it to transfer a little faster. This is a new bar too, so, and it's been really cold down here. Super shiny frets. Let's wax this whole thing. I would not normally do this, but I want to try it. Let's buff this thing. Fretboard and all. Very gently, but I still want to do it. super cool. Look at that, you guys. It's just polishing it right up. I can't believe how good this feels buffed like that. It's all slick and nice now, but it still feels like wood, which I am so glad. I don't like a glossy neck. And I mean, this is glossy, but you can still feel the wood in your hand. I really love that. This is most excellent, you guys. I am so happy that I sprung and bought this buffer. This thing's going to come in so handy. All right, you guys, we're back in the shop. Today's Saturday, November the 26th. I've been working for the past 3 days to get my shop reorganized. I have got a new workbench. Here it is. It's twice the size of the old one. And I had to do so much work to get this thing in here, you guys. But I got it in here nonetheless. I was kind of put up against it because it was supposed to rain. And I didn't want to leave this beautiful table sitting out in the rain for a couple of days. So I decided to put off finishing the 7 of 9 build until I could get my shop reorganized and put back together, because this place was a disaster. So what we're going to do is start to assemble our components for this guitar. I'm going to get out this bridge right here. This is a 4-hole mount, which means it's a modern style telly bridge. So you can see all our saddles are off. I got this from WD Music, and Kluson is nice, really nice hardware. We need to drill ourselves in a wiring path from this cavity to this cavity, from this cavity to the control cavity over here, so we can get our wires from our pickups to our switch and to our potentiometers. We also need a grounding path from the bridge to the control cavity. Honestly, I could come through the same hole that the pickups coming through, the way a telly's wired. And the first wiring path we want from the bridge pickup cavity to the control cavity, and we can pretty much go straight in. There's our hole, so we're good. This hole is a little bit more of a daunting hole. We want to be slightly at a downward angle. And I wound up perfect in the bottom of my bridge pickup cavity right there. I'm directly in the bottom of that, so we're good to go. Let's drill ourselves a second hole for the bridge ground. And we're in. While we're drilling holes, we might as well drill in for our strap buttons. Our body total thickness is 44 millimeters, which is about perfect. We're going to measure from the top to the line where the rollover starts. Just make ourselves a little dent right there. That's where our strap button's going to go. All right, that should be plenty. Now we're going to come around this side and do the same thing. Let's find the center once again. We're at about 30 millimeters back here on this cut. Let's mark this with our brad awl. There we go. I'm using Kluson California custom black strap buttons on this guitar. Those have become my preferred strap buttons. What we need to do now is mark out for our switch. Now I'm just going to mark this with a pencil, or actually we'll use this black felt tip marker. Where I've got those 2 dots appear to be the same distance from the end of that slot. We need to install our string ferrules. I'm going to use a center punch for this. My outside one's slightly off, but not terrible. I swear I think the guitar resonates better if you run strings through the body. That is such a great fitting neck pocket. I am so happy with how that's turned out. I'm going to very, very lightly, with a 0.5 millimeter pencil, make myself a line right there. A line right there. Now that should fall under our bridge, so we're not really that concerned, but this is going to allow us to get perfect bridge placement. Barely a little tick mark for our center line. So what we'll do is line this up on our center line. All right, you guys, I just kept talking. I wasn't paying attention. Didn't realize the camera had split the file. But as you can see, I've got 4 dimples right there made. Those are my bridge mounting screw locations. We're gonna double check these with the protractor before we drill these holes in. I'm gonna get this lined up directly on that center line. I'm right on the outside of 31 on both my outside holes, so I'm satisfied that those are good. What we want to do now is measure the diameter of these bridge mounting screws. We'll measure the shaft, 2.86. Let's measure inside the threads. We're at 2.62, and the length is 22, we'll say 23 millimeters. So we need a 2 millimeter drill bit, and we need to make ourselves a black Sharpie mark at 23 millimeters. All right, let's pop our bridge base back on the body and make sure those are centered. They look perfect. We need to make that back cavity cover and get those holes drilled in. We're going to attach that with screws on this guitar. I wanted to show you guys something real quick that I'm thinking about doing. I have got some veneer here. I've got bird's eye maple, which this is beautiful, and that's actually what I'm considering using. I'm thinking about taking some of this wingay and some of this bird's eye maple here and doing a light dark top on a piece of this maple for a cover. I'm thinking about staining this bird's eye maple. I'll let this be what shows on the cavity cover. I've routed the shelf for my rear cavity at 5 millimeters, so we need that added thickness anyway. And both of these veneers are thick enough for me to sand on them and get them nice and flat. So I can use this template and go ahead and mark out a shape on a piece of this maple here. I'll mark this out, we'll cut it out on the bandsaw, go ahead and attach this to this template, run it around the router table, then I can glue the veneer onto this piece of wood, let it sit for a while and dry, and all I have to do is flush trim the sides, get that veneer cleaned up. We'll sand it, we'll stain it, and wipe a coat of oil on it. Normally when I order wood from C. Jacobs, he always puts my top sets in between 2 other top sets like a B or a C grade. That keeps the inner sets from getting damaged. So I've always got, you know, some B or C grade top sets laying around the shop here that I can use for cover plates. Get this placed on here. Let's take a pencil, trace out this shape. Let's get this cut out real quick. So let's get this piece of wood attached to this template with super glue and masking tape and go ahead and get this run across the router table. All right, I think we're firmly attached. And since it's just a small route, I'm not going to put a mask on. I will lower my glasses though. So there we go. I'm going to take my scraper and go around the outside edge of this thing and clean it up after we get it off the template. I want to get this lined up as close to that edge as possible. We'll leave a little overhang. We'll do the same thing with this maple, and I want to choose the more figured side because this is going to be the side that shows. So I got a piece of MDF right there, piece of granite. Let that dry for a couple of hours. We're going to polish this thing up with some Crimson Ultra Mega Versatile Multi-Use Guitar Polish. We're going to use this to polish this bridge. I've got a soft cotton buff on the little drill mandrel. Doesn't take much, supposedly. I've never used this stuff, but I hear good things. I'm sure you can see that reflection. That's beautiful. All right, I've changed my mind again. On the bridge pickup, I'm going to use a Kent Armstrong traditional telly, but this is a hot telly. And these are fiber wrapped, so this is a really nice traditional looking Telecaster pickup. Take our little halter mallet. We are ready to run these screws in for the bridge. Something we have to do before we can mount this bridge is get a ground wire in there. I've got a separate hole drilled for the ground. Now I'll come back once we get this like we want it, and I'll solder this wire in. Waxing the screw makes all the difference in the world. That's what we're looking like, and that is just sick. I love it. I won't go any further until we shield this cavity. Let's go ahead and do that. So I use Easy Slide graphite based coating for this. This is a solvent based product. The graphite has a tendency to settle to the bottom, so you have to make sure you stir this stuff, and I'll show you what I mean. See those solids? I'm just going to mix this up. You guys have seen me shield a cavity. You're building a Faraday cage. Alright you guys, we're going to let that shielding paint dry overnight. We'll put another coat on it tomorrow. As soon as it dries tomorrow evening, we'll start the soldering process. I'll get the switch put in. We'll put the saddles back on the bridge. We'll mount the neck, put the tuners in, get the nut installed. I'm really happy with this guitar, you guys. This thing, if it plays like I think it's going to, I really believe this is going to be a stunner. Everyone has their reasoning for why they like a certain guitar. You know, it's the age-old Fender versus Gibson, which I don't play that game. I don't care. I like Fenders by nature. You know, I am a Fender Strat guy, but I've played plenty of Strats that I don't care for. So it's all about mojo. It's about that combination of things, the electronics, the wood. And I'm not talking about tone wood. I'm just talking about the wood that was used to build the guitar and how solid the guitar feels. There's so many different things that add to a guitar's mojo. Like I said, you guys, I could care less. I don't subscribe to that Fender versus Gibson philosophy, because I happen to know for a fact that Fender makes killer guitars. They have made some stellar guitars throughout the life or throughout the history of Fender. And I know Gibson has made some stellar guitars throughout the life of Gibson. But both Fender and Gibson have also went through periods where practically every guitar they made sucked. What that does tell me is that some guitars just don't have the mojo. It does not matter what you do to them. You cannot give that to a guitar. It has to be there in the wood, in the materials, in the construction mainly. I like a guitar that has been touched by human hands from the time it's lumber till the time it's in a case. The builder can build in that mojo at that time when you're feeling that wood. You guys have heard me talk about this. You know how I feel about it. You know, I'm not saying I'm right. That's just how I feel and how I like to build guitars. You know, there's room for us all here. I'm not saying one is better than the other even. I'm telling you guys what floats my boat and what flies in my sky. You know, it's not so much that I like a hand-built guitar. It's that I like to hand-build guitars. And that to me makes me appreciate each individual instrument a little bit more. It's not a production thing with me. It's a slow and methodical process that makes me happy. You know, it makes me happy. So that's why I do it. Plus I got you guys, you know, giving me feedback, and I love that too. So I hope you guys will keep stopping by the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. All right, you guys, we're back in the shop. Today is Wednesday, November the 30th. I've been under the weather for the past 3 days, so I haven't gotten anything done down here. But I'm feeling better now, back in the shop. We're gonna get back to work on 7 of 9. First of all, let me show you guys this cover plate. So there's my cover plate. Bird's eye maple, laminated on top of a piece of Wingate veneer, and then the main part of the body of this cover is curly maple, which you can see right there. I'm going to coat the back of this thing with shielding paint, so curly maple was not really necessary. I gained a little thickness by adding this veneer onto here, and I also improved the stability by laminating this. On top of that, that bird's eye maple is just cool looking. We're going to stain that, but before we can do that, I need to drill the holes for the screws in here. And I'm hoping by using this backer plate, it's going to keep us from blowing out the back of this. But even if it blows out a little, we're still going to use the countersink. So there's our holes drilled in. All right, you guys, I've decided that honey and gold are the best color combo. And not even doing a burst on it. I just want it to have that nice rustic color. All right, you guys, we're back in the shop. Tonight is Thursday, December the 1st. We're about to solder the pickups into the 7 of 9 build. I'm using a P90 in the neck, a standard Telecaster single coil in the bridge, but it is hot. The bridge is coming in at 8.5 K at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The neck pickup is coming in at 7.45, so 7.5 K at 72 degrees. We should be able to get a really nice balance between these two pickups. So let's get this thing wired up. I'm always tempted to blow on it, but the guy that taught me to solder told me never blow on the solder. It can cause you to have a cold joint, and you don't want a cold solder joint. All right, so there's our leads for our jack. As I've told you guys before, I always use a wiring diagram. I've got one pulled up on my phone here for a standard 3-way switch telly. And I like to save a little link so you can pull the jack out and work on it if you need to. I went ahead and buttoned the back up. We got the soldering done. The next thing we want to do is get the neck installed. This thing's coming together now. I am super excited about it. All right, you guys, we're finally back in the shop. Today is Sunday, December the 4th. I've lost another couple of days. I had to put a drain pump in our washing machine up at the house, and that proved to be quite a task. Anyway, here is 7 of 9. I am about to install the nut. We're going to put the saddles back on this bridge. I've got the back cavity buttoned up. Everything's ready to roll. We're going to put the knobs on here. We're going to string this thing up and plug it into the amp and see what this thing is capable of doing here. I have changed one slight thing. I was going to use those Yamaha tuners. I am going to improve this guitar by installing a set of Hipshot open gear locking tuners with the standard Hipshot button on these. I think Wes will be happier with these tuners than he would have been the Yamahas. I love Hipshot tuners. They're pretty much the tuners that I use. We're going to flip this guitar over once I get all these bushings and these tuners installed, and then we'll use a ruler to make sure they're all sitting in a straight line. Then we'll get some holes marked and install the actual screws. These tuners are just cool. So what I like to do is we'll just take a ruler and let's get 1 and 6 lined up just like we want them. What we'll do is go down through here and make the rest of these line up like they need to. All right, we're looking good. Now I'm going to go down through here with my bradawl. We're just going to mark out just to give that bit somewhere to follow. And instead of taking a chance on running a power or a cordless drill down in here, I'm going to grab my little Miller's Falls hand drill right here and we'll use it. Let's get our wax. I just keep a little block of paraffin around. This is great for waxing screws. You can get screw wax that's specifically made for that. But as long as you get some wax on the threads, you're good. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on this. The wax makes all the difference though, I'm telling you. You don't need an abundance on there, but you want enough to just lubricate that screw, the thread, so it goes down in there a little easier. I have plugged this thing into the amp before I button everything up on the back to make sure our pickups were working properly, and they are. There's our saddles on. Let's get our knobs installed. There we go. Nice. No activator. My nut's just ever so slightly wider than the neck. So I want to take care of that. We also want to make sure we end up with a nice smooth surface on our nut. I'm using DR tight fit hand wound strings. These are my preferred strings. I like Diodario's as well. There we go. So when you're filing in your nut slot, you want to make sure that you've got an angle on the nut slot, because you want to make certain that where the string leaves the front side of the nut, that is also your contact point. You guys, I cannot stress enough, I tried to order myself a cheap set of nut slotting files, and I ended up not being able to use them. So you guys do yourself a favor and get yourself a set of these Hosco nut files. You can get them from Crimson, you can get them from Philadelphia Luthier Tools, LMI, you can buy them on Amazon. They're about $120 for a set of 10, but they're absolutely worth it. Perfect. What a cool guitar. I love this thing. It's kicked my ass on more than one occasion already. But when it comes right down to it, you know, that really doesn't matter. Let's get these string trees installed and then we'll do the final reveal. Just the one will work. All right, after all this time, 7 of 9. It's beautiful. My string spacing wound up really nice. Let me get this thing tuned up. We'll plug it in, play a demo. We'll wrap this video up, you guys. I am so excited about this. As you guys know, this is based on a telly design. I've got a Kent Armstrong hot telly in the bridge, a custom hand wound P90 in the neck that my buddy Mike from ASA Guitars gave me. We got a Kluson modern style telly bridge with brass saddles. They're coated black. Solid brass, black coated knobs. These are Goto. Standard 3-way telly switch. I've dulled the switch tip back a little bit. We got a hill adjust truss rod in here. I ended up trading out the telly style electro socket jack for this square jack plate. I chased an electronics problem for 45 minutes, all to find out that it was because of that jack. I switched it out with the Switchcraft. We're good to go now. I will no longer use the Pure Tone multi-contact jacks. Even though they're multi-contact, they don't make contact. In some cases, you have to scrape the plating off of that. I have read it before, and I've not had too many issues so far. I usually take the file to the contacts on those things, but I tried that on this one, and by the time I got enough plating off, I ended up breaking one of the tines off or one of the contacts, and I decided that I'm going with Switchcraft from now on. Fender and Gibson both have used Switchcraft for years, and they don't have any issues, so we're going to leave it at that. We got hip shot locking open gear tuners on this thing. Standard hip shot buttons. I've got an American standard style string tree on here. A Tone Ninja pre-slotted nut. I did do a bunch of work on it, as you guys saw earlier in the video. I've got two 250K potentiometers. I've got a Mallory Mustard 47 or a .47 microfarad capacitor in this guitar. All 22 gauge silicone wiring. Kluson California custom strap buttons. You guys know about the rest of the construction. It's probably all too familiar to you guys at this point. But anyway, let's plug this thing in and play a few chords on it, and we'll jam around a little bit just for a few minutes. I just want to hear how this thing's going to sound. I've already played it, and it's a monster. So I'm in the bridge position, volume wide open, tone wide open. This is all bridge. I've got nothing funky done to the wiring. We do not have a treble bleed circuit. So that's the Jazz Chorus channel, all bridge pickup. Let's go to the middle. All right, so let's go to the neck now. This is all P90 at this point. I like it. That's a nice rhythm sound. I love a P90. I love the blend between the bridge and the P90. Sounds like a telly. I love that. We're in the bridge pickup. I'm not going to mess with any of the EQ. We're in a Tube Screamer modeling selection. Everything's set where it was. Gain's about halfway. Presence is at 2 o'clock. Bass and treble at 2 o'clock. Middle's about 11 o'clock. So I do have some of the mid sucked out of it. And the volume, we're at about 1/3. A little bit of chorus, a little bit of reverb. That's all that's on here. Wes, you're going to love this thing. Turned wide open through a big killer tube amp. This thing's going to scream, dude. I'm serious. What a great guitar. This thing sounds awesome. Alright, you guys, we're going to wrap this video up right here. I apologize for my choppy playing. I'm feeling really anxious. I've got so much stuff to do. I really appreciate you guys sticking by me throughout this whole build. There have been a few times where I felt like I was so frustrated, and then one of you guys would make a comment that would completely re-inspire me to go forward on this guitar. But I have ended up loving how this guitar looks. It is so cool. It's got this really cool antique vibe to it. I love the neck. I love the color of this top. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I really wanted to say thank you guys so much for sticking by me through this build. As you guys know, coming up shortly on the channel here, Gio from Tornelliguitars and myself are about to start the Ultimate Strat build. That's coming shortly, I promise you guys, especially now that I'm through with 7 of 9. But I also wanted to let you guys know that I will be releasing a new video for a brand new build series, and it will be what I am considering the first sweet-T designed guitar that I plan to duplicate. And what I mean by that is I'm going to build a guitar. I'm going to have templates made of that guitar once I tweak it and have everything exactly like I want it. I'm either going to make the templates myself, or I'll send them off to Steve at Maximum Guitar Works and let him do it. You know, I want your feedback on this build, so if any of you guys become interested throughout that series in that guitar, let me know and I'll sell it to you when the build series is over. I'm keeping the Strat that I'm building in the collaboration build with Gio and I. But that first sweet-T guitar, as soon as I get done making templates on it, one of you guys is more than welcome to buy it if you want to. And I assure you, I'm going to let it go for a fair price. If one of you guys is interested, all you got to do is let me know in the comments or send me an email to sweetTguitars@outlook.com. We can talk about that when we get closer to the end of that build. I'm also doing a giveaway starting late January, early February. You guys already know. That will be a 1 pickup, 1 volume knob, still a custom designed, custom hand-built guitar. But I'm going to go easy on the electronics so I can keep the cost down a little bit for myself. But I am going to spend as much time building it as I would any other guitar. And I am going to use some premium killer wood on this thing. So when I say 1 volume, 1 pickup, don't concern yourself too much. It'll be a killer pickup. And this guitar is going to smoke. This is going to be a rock and roll machine. So You guys stay on the lookout for that. When I'm done with that build, I'm going to give it away right here on the channel. But until then, you guys, I want to really start to concentrate on coming up with 2 or 3 designs that I can vary the wood, vary the electronics on, and offer those guitars for sale. Now, how I'm planning on doing this, instead of running this like a commission kind of a thing, I'm going to build the guitar on YouTube. You guys are going to watch me build it if you choose to. And at the end of that series, I'm going to announce what the price is for that guitar. Whoever wants it, all you got to do is email me at sweetTguitars@outlook.com, or you can comment in the video. And that's how I plan to sell guitars, you guys. I'm building these things one at a time, and I'm not in a hurry to make it a production-oriented thing. I like building one-off custom guitars, and that's what I intend to keep doing. So if any of you guys is interested in any guitar that I'm building, all you got to do is say, and we'll talk about it. We can email back and forth. I'll give you my cell number. You can call me if you want. Whatever needs to happen. But I am getting ready to start selling some of these guitars as we move into 2023 here. So I hope you guys are as excited about that as I am. But again, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out and sticking by me throughout this whole build. The 7 of 9's been a real lesson teacher, and I cannot tell you how much your support has meant to me throughout this whole build. So thank you, you guys. And as always, until the next video, peace and love.